The Stone Sentinel, The Secrets of Devil's Tower. Introduction: The Anomaly on the Horizon. Imagine you are driving through the rolling grasslands of northeastern Wyoming. For miles, the landscape is a gentle sea of sagebrush and ponderosa pine. But then, as you crest a final ridge, the earth seems to thrust a jagged, flat-topped fist toward the heavens. It is a massive, fluted monolith of rock, rising 867 feet from its base, standing in absolute isolation. This is Devil's Tower. To the casual tourist, it is a magnificent photo opportunity. To the rock climber, it is a vertical playground of cracks and columns. To the geologist, it is a puzzle made of rare igneous rock. But to the indigenous peoples of the plains, it is Matotipila, the Bear Lodge, a place of profound spiritual power that predates the arrival of any surveyor or mapmaker. This script, The Stone Sentinel, is your definitive guide to this geological titan. We aren't just going to look at the rocks, we are going to look through them. We will journey through 5 chapters: the ancient legends of the Bear's House, the violent geological birth that scientists still argue about today, the harrowing history of those who dared to climb its vertical face, the tower's unexpected role as a gateway to the stars in Hollywood history, and finally, the modern-day struggle to protect a site that is simultaneously a church, a park, and a landmark. Buckle your seatbelt and steady your gaze. We are heading into the heart of the Black Hills to face the most striking anomaly in the American West. Chapter 1: The Bear's Claws, Legends of the Ancestors. Long before it was named Devil's Tower by a misinformed colonel in 1875, this site was a sacred destination for the Lakota, Cheyenne, Kyoto, and Arapaho tribes. To them, the vertical lines etched into the side of the tower are not columnar joints. They are the marks of a giant. The most famous legend tells the story of several young girls who were out playing when they were spotted by a massive, hungry bear. The girls ran toward a small rock, but the bear was gaining on them. They fell to their knees and prayed to the Great Spirit to save them. Suddenly, the rock began to grow, rising higher and higher into the sky, carrying the girls out of the bear's reach. The bear, in a blind fury, clawed at the sides of the rising peak, trying to reach the top. His claws tore deep, vertical grooves into the stone as he fell back to earth. The bear eventually died of exhaustion, and the girls were transformed into the stars of the Pleiades, which sit directly above the tower in the night sky. In this chapter, we explore the cultural heartbeat of the tower. We look at why the name Devil's Tower is considered a mistranslation and a slight to the indigenous people. The original name was closer to Bear Lodge, but early explorers confused the word for bad god or devil. We discuss the prayer ties, the colorful bundles of cloth you see tied to the trees at the base today, and what it means for a mountain to be a living, breathing part of a people's religion. This isn't just a rock, it's a site of vision quests and sun dances, a place where the physical world reaches out to touch the divine. Chapter 2: The Fire Beneath the Plains, a Geological Riddle. If you ask a geologist how Devil's Tower was formed, they will give you a very confident answer. That is, until you ask a second geologist. The tower is made of phonolite porphyry, a rare type of igneous rock that is rich in feldspar and rings like a bell when struck. But the mystery isn't what it's made of, it's how it got there. About 50 million years ago, during the Eocene epoch, molten magma was forced upward through the Earth's crust, but it never quite reached the surface to become a volcano. There are 3 main theories. The first is the laccolith theory, that the tower is the remains of a massive, mushroom-shaped blister of magma that cooled underground and was later exposed by millions of years of erosion of the surrounding soft soil. The second is the volcanic plug theory, that the tower is the solid neck of an extinct volcano that has long since weathered away. The third, more modern theory suggests it is a Mare diatreme, the result of a massive underground steam explosion. The most striking feature of the tower is its fluting, the hundreds of vertical columns that make it look like a bundle of stone pencils. These are columnar joints. As the magma cooled, it contracted, cracking in perfect hexagonal and pentagonal patterns. It is the same process that created the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, but on a scale that is unparalleled in the Americas. In this chapter, we break down the physics of the chill. We look at the sheer power of the Belforce River, which spent millions of years carving away the landscape to reveal the tower. We explore the boulder field at the base, the massive chunks of column that have fallen over the millennia, and we ask, how much longer can the Sentinel stand against the relentless wind and ice? Chapter 3:
the ladder to the sky, human ambition and the climb. For a long time, the top of Devil's Tower was considered unreachable by humans. Its vertical faces and flaring columns seemed designed to keep people on the ground. But human nature is nothing if not stubborn. The first recorded ascent happened on July 4, 1893. Two local ranchers, William Rogers and Willard Ripley, decided they were going to get to the top to plant an American flag for Independence Day. They didn't have ropes, harnesses, or climbing shoes. Instead, they built a wooden ladder. They spent months driving wooden pegs into a narrow vertical crack between two columns, connecting them with slats of wood. On the big day, over 1,000 people traveled by horse and buggy to watch. Rogers climbed the rickety 300-foot ladder to the summit, becoming the first non-Indigenous person to stand on the roof of Wyoming. In the 1930s, the era of technical climbing began. Climbers like Fritz Weissner and Jack Durrance proved that the tower could be mastered using only the cracks in the rock. Today, over 5,000 people a year attempt to climb the tower. It is considered one of the premier crack climbing destinations in the world. This chapter is a celebration of the vertical mile. We recreate the terror of that 1893 ladder climb, parts of which are still visible on the tower today. We talk about the stake driving era and the transition to clean climbing, where the goal is to leave no trace on the rock. We also look at the darker side of climbing history, the story of George Hopkins, the professional parachutist who landed on top of the tower in 1941 on a dare, only to realize he had no way to get down. The rescue of George Hopkins became a national media circus, involving the military, expert climbers, and a lot of whiskey dropped from airplanes to keep him warm during the freezing nights on the summit.
Chapter 4. The Gateway to the Stars, Hollywood and the Unknown. In 1977, Devil's Tower stopped being a regional landmark and became a global icon. Steven Spielberg was looking for a location for his science fiction masterpiece, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He needed a place that looked otherworldly, a place that could realistically serve as a landing pad for an interstellar mothership. He found it in Devil's Tower. In the film, the tower is the shrine that hauntingly appears in the visions of people across the country. They find themselves sculpting its shape out of mashed potatoes or building it in their living rooms out of mud. The tower becomes the Mount Sinai of the space age, the place where humanity finally meets the other. This chapter explores the Spielberg effect. We look at how the movie changed the public's perception of the tower. It added a layer of modern mythology to the ancient ones. Now, people don't just look for bears, they look for lights in the sky. We discuss the filming process, the massive sets built at the base, and how the theme from Close Encounters, those 5 iconic musical notes, is now forever linked to the silhouette of the fluted rock. The tower is a natural antenna for our imagination. Whether it's the 19th century ranchers or the 20th century sailmakers, we seem driven to project our biggest questions onto its flat summit. We explore the UFO tourism that still exists in the town of Hulett today, and why the tower remains the quintessential symbol of the unknown in American culture. Chapter 5. The Sacred Struggle, Preserving the Sentinel. Devil's Tower was the very first national monument in the United States, designated by Theodore Roosevelt in 1906. But being first doesn't mean it's easy to manage. Today, the tower is a clash of cultures. In this final chapter, we dive into the June climbing ban. For the Lakota and other tribes, June is the most sacred month for ceremonies at the tower. They find the sight and sound of climbers, clanking gear and shouting, to be a desecration of their church. In response, the National Park Service implemented a voluntary climbing ban for the month of June. This sparked a massive legal and social debate. Does a government agency have the right to restrict access to public land for religious reasons? Climbers argued for their right to the rock. The tribes argued for their right to silence. The compromise, the voluntary ban, is a fascinating study in modern diplomacy and mutual respect. Most climbers now choose to stay off the rock in June out of reverence for the first Americans. We also look at the environmental challenges. The tower is home to rare falcons and a unique ecosystem on its summit, which is essentially a sky island of sagebrush and cactus. We discuss the physical weathering of the monument, how ice expands in the cracks and eventually causes the massive columns to fall. One day, thousands of years from now, the Sentinel will finally crumble. But for now, it stands. It is a bridge between the deep geological past, the ancient cultural history of the plains, and our modern quest for adventure and meaning. Outro. The last light on the tower. The sun is setting now over the Wyoming plains, and the fluted columns of the tower are turning a deep, burning orange. The bear's claws look sharper in the shadows, and the prayer ties at the base are fluttering in the evening breeze. We have traveled from the first legends of the Bear Lodge to the silver screen visions of Steven Spielberg. We have seen how science and spirit can look at the same piece of rock and see two completely different miracles. Devil's Tower is more than a monument. It is a reminder that the Earth is a place of profound vertical mystery. It stands as a sentinel, watching the grass grow and the stars spin. It reminds us that whether we are climbing its cracks or praying at its base, we are all just temporary visitors to a structure that has seen 50 million years of history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the secrets of the American West, if you want to hear more stories about the world's most incredible natural anomalies, hidden history, and the people who dare to explore them, please like this content and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to keep the microphones on and the stories flowing, bringing the most incredible corners of the globe directly to your ears. What do you think? Is it the Bear Lodge, the Devil's Tower, or the Gateway to the Stars? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and until our next journey, keep your eyes on the horizon. Thank you.